No one expects their life to shift on an ordinary night, yet that's exactly what happened the moment a quiet knock echoed through Elise Marlowe's small apartment just past 8 in the evening. It was the kind of knock that didn't demand attention, but somehow carried a weight that pulled her straight out of her thoughts. She froze halfway through folding a blanket on her couch. A soft drizzle tapped against the window, and for a heartbeat she wondered if she'd imagined the sound. But then it came again, gentle, patient, almost hesitant. Elise wasn't used to unexpected visitors. Her days were predictable, safe, neatly arranged like the books on her shelves. So when she opened the door and found Rowan Hale standing there, quiet, soaked from the rain, and holding a worn envelope, her breath caught in a way she didn't understand. Rowan lived down the hall, the kind neighbor people greeted with a polite smile but never truly got close to. He was kind, steady, respectful, yet distant, as though holding pieces of himself carefully out of reach. "Elise," he said softly, rain sliding from his dark hair onto his jacket. "I'm sorry for showing up like this. I just didn't know where else to go." Something in his voice carried a tremor she had never heard before. She stepped aside immediately. "You're always welcome here." Rowan walked in slowly, almost as if he feared bringing the storm indoors with him. Elise handed him a towel, and he accepted it with quiet gratitude before looking around her living room as though grounding himself. She noticed his hand tighten around the envelope, the paper worn as if it had been held too long, too tightly. "Are you all right?" she asked. He hesitated, a lingering pause that said far more than his silence. Finally, he nodded, though the gesture didn't quite reach his eyes. "This arrived today," he said, lifting the envelope before lowering it again, "and I didn't want to be alone when I opened it." Elise's heart tugged. She didn't know what the letter contained, but she understood the courage it must have taken for him to walk down the hallway and knock on her door. She motioned for him to sit. "Whatever it is, you don't have to deal with it by yourself." Rowan sat slowly on the far end of the couch. The soft lamplight cast a warm glow across his tired features. He didn't open the envelope yet. Instead, he studied it as if debating whether he was ready to know what waited inside. "It's from someone I haven't heard from in a long time," he said quietly. "Someone I thought I'd never hear from again." His words hung in the air, carrying a weight Elise didn't fully understand, but instinctively respected. Outside, thunder rolled faintly, low and distant. "Do you want to talk about it?" she asked. Rowan exhaled a long, uneasy breath. "I think I do, but I'm not sure where to start." Elise sat beside him, keeping a gentle distance, close enough to offer comfort, far enough to let him choose how much to share. "You can start anywhere," she said softly. "Just start with today." Rowan looked at her then, really looked at her, and his expression shifted, as if finding steadiness he hadn't had a moment earlier. "Elise, thank you. I didn't expect this. I didn't expect you." Those words warmed her in a way she didn't show, but deeply felt. He finally slid a finger under the seal of the envelope. The faint tear of paper seemed impossibly loud in the quiet room. He pulled out a single folded sheet. His hands trembled. Before he could unfold it, he paused, staring at the page with a look Elise had never seen on him before, fear mixed with hope, and something else she couldn't yet name. "Elise," he whispered, "before I open this, I need you to know something." He turned slightly toward her. "And I'm not sure how you'll feel after you hear it." The room stilled. If you're enjoying this story so far, please like the video and subscribe for more heartfelt tales. Rowan drew in a shaky breath, as though preparing to reveal something that could change everything. And just as he opened his mouth to speak, a sudden knock echoed from Elise's door behind them. Soft, unexpected, chilling in its timing. The second knock wasn't loud, yet it cut through the room like a thread pulled too tight. Elise and Rowan stared at the door, neither moving at first, as if both wondered whether they had imagined it. Rowan folded the letter quickly, almost instinctively, as though protecting it. Elise stood, her heartbeat unsteady, and stepped toward the door with cautious, quiet footsteps. "Are you expecting someone?" Rowan asked, his voice low. "No," she whispered, "not tonight." When she opened the door, a gust of cool night air drifted in. The hallway was empty. No footsteps faded in the distance, no voices echoed, just the soft hum of the building's lights and the faint scent of rain. Elise stepped out, glanced both ways, then returned inside, confused. "There's no one." She closed the door gently. "Maybe someone knocked on the wrong—" But before she finished, Rowan shook his head slowly. "That wasn't a mistake," he said, his voice taut. Elise sat beside him again, eyes searching his face. "What's going on?" Rowan held the folded letter as though it anchored him. His gaze drifted toward the window, where raindrops slid in thin, shimmering lines. "I need to tell you something," he said, "and it won't make much sense at first, but I need you to hear it." Elise nodded, steady and patient. Rowan looked down at the letter again and exhaled. "This is from my sister, someone I haven't seen or spoken to in several years." Elise blinked softly, relief momentarily easing her shoulders. "That's not so strange, Rowan. Families fall out of touch sometimes." "It's not that," he said gently, his voice tightening. "She disappeared, completely. One day she was gone, and there was no explanation, no word, nothing." Elise's breath caught. "And now," Rowan continued, holding up the letter, "this showed up in my mailbox. No return address, no date, just my name, written in her handwriting." "What does it say?" He hesitated. "I haven't read it yet." Elise frowned slightly. "Why not?" "Because if it's a goodbye," he whispered, "I'm not sure how to handle that alone. And if it's something else, I don't know what it could mean." The vulnerability in his words touched her more deeply than she expected. She reached out, resting her hand quietly near his, not touching, just offering closeness. "You're not alone now," she said softly. Rowan's expression wavered, and he nodded. With a slow breath, he unfolded the letter. His eyes moved across the page. A moment passed, then another. Elise waited, watching the shifting emotions on his face. Confusion, sadness, surprise, and something like fear. Finally, he lowered the letter, his hands trembling slightly. "What does it say?" Elise asked gently. Rowan swallowed hard. "She's alive," he whispered. "She's safe. She says she had to leave because she was afraid she'd pull me into something she couldn't escape." Elise's brows drew tight, a soft ache rising in her chest. What could that mean? Rowan shook his head slowly. "I don't know, but she wrote that she's coming back soon. That she needs to talk to me, and that I shouldn't trust unfamiliar knocks at my door until she does." Elise's breath grew uneven. The knock, the empty hallway, the timing. "Rowan," she whispered, "do you think that knock?" "I don't know," he said, voice barely above a breath, "but I think someone else knows she reached out to me." A small shiver moved along Elise's arms. Rowan looked at her with an honesty that felt deeper than the storm outside. "I wouldn't have come here if I didn't feel safe with you," he said quietly. "But now I'm afraid I might have brought something to your doorstep that you never asked for." His words lingered, warm and heavy all at once. Elise didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned just a little closer, not touching, simply offering presence. "You did the right thing coming here," she said. "Whatever's happening, we'll figure it out together." But before Rowan could answer, the lights in her apartment flickered once. Twice. then steadied. Rowan's jaw tightened. "Elise," he murmured, "I think there's something I haven't told you yet, something important." Outside, the rain grew heavier, tapping urgently against the glass, as if echoing a truth neither of them had uncovered. The flicker of the lights wasn't dramatic, but it was enough to make the room feel smaller, quieter, as though the walls leaned in to listen. Elise sat perfectly still, her pulse unsteady, but her expression soft, steady, encouraging. Rowan rubbed a hand over his face, exhaling slowly. "There's more to this," he said. "Something I've tried to ignore for years." Elise shifted just a little closer. "You can tell me." Rowan nodded, though hesitation clouded his eyes. "When my sister disappeared, it wasn't sudden to her, it was sudden to me, and that's what's been gnawing at me ever since." The rain drummed harder against the windows, as if pushing him to continue. "She didn't leave without warning," he said. "She tried to tell me something before she was gone, but I didn't listen, or maybe I didn't want to believe her." Elise's voice softened. "What was she trying to tell you?" Rowan turned the letter over in his hands, as though searching for courage in the paper fibers. "She told me she was being followed," he said, "that someone was watching her, always from a distance, always quiet. She said she didn't know why, just that it felt wrong and close." A faint shiver moved through Elise's shoulders, but she held his gaze. "And you didn't believe her?" she murmured gently. He shook his head, guilt deepening the lines around his eyes. "I thought she was stressed, overworked. I told her she needed rest, not fear. A week later, she was gone." Elise inhaled, her heart aching at the quiet grief threaded through his voice. "And now she's back," she said, "or coming back." Rowan nodded. "That's what she wrote. She said she finally had a chance to explain everything. And she wrote one last thing." He looked down, reading the final line again. "If anything happens before I see you, go to someone you trust." His voice broke slightly on the last word. Elise felt a deep, warm pull in her chest. "And you came to me." Rowan finally met her eyes, the honesty there raw and unguarded. "I don't know why it felt right," he said quietly, "but it did. It always does with you. You have this way of making everything less heavy." Elise felt her breath catch. She didn't say anything. She wasn't sure she could without her voice shaking, but she didn't need to. Her expression said enough. He opened his mouth to continue, but a soft tapping hit the window. 3 faint, deliberate taps. Elise's eyes widened. That wasn't the rain. Rowan stood slowly, muscles tight with quiet alertness, though his movements stayed calm, careful not to frighten her further. He approached the window and pulled the curtain aside just enough to peek through. The parking lot below glistened with rain. Streetlights cast soft gold reflections across the wet pavement. Cars sat still, no movement, no shadows out of place. But Rowan stayed frozen for a long moment, his breathing shallow. "What do you see?" Elise asked gently. He let the curtain fall back. "Nothing," he said, although his voice didn't quite match the word. "That's what's bothering me." He walked back to the couch, but didn't sit. Instead, he paced once, then stopped, running a hand through his damp hair. "Elise, there's something else you should know." He hesitated. "My sister wasn't the only one who felt watched." Elise's breath stilled. "You too?" she whispered. Rowan nodded slowly. "But I always chalked it up to nerves, work stress, imagination. I never took it seriously. Not until the knock on your door tonight. Not until that letter arrived." Elise looked down at her hands, then back up, steady and intent. So, what do you think it means? She asked. Rowan swallowed hard. I think someone knows she reached out, and I think they're closer than either of us realized. For a moment, neither spoke. The room felt impossibly quiet. Then, Rowan stepped closer, his voice gentle but firm. Elise, I'm sorry I brought this into your home. I didn't mean to drag you into anything complicated. She shook her head immediately. You didn't drag me into anything. I opened the door. Her sincerity hit him with visible force. But before he could answer, a faint creak echoed from the hallway outside her apartment, soft, slow, like weight shifting on old floorboards. Elise's eyes lifted to the door, her breath catching. Rowan turned toward the sound, his expression sharpening with quiet alertness. Elise, he murmured, stay close to me. The hallway fell silent again, but something about that silence felt wrong. The stillness outside Elise's door settled over the room like a heavy blanket, not loud, not threatening, but unmistakably present. Elise's chest tightened as she listened, every sense suddenly sharp. Rowan stood a step in front of her, not in a dramatic way, just steady, instinctive, like someone who had spent years learning to protect what little he had left. Another faint creak drifted down the hallway, slow, distant, as if someone carefully shifted their weight, unsure whether to move closer or slip away. Elise whispered, "Do you think someone is out there?" Rowan didn't answer right away. He tilted his head slightly, listening, his eyes never leaving the door. "I think," he said finally, "that someone didn't expect us to hear them." The rain outside softened to a gentle patter, giving the night an eerie clarity. No thunder, no wind, just quiet. Too quiet. Elise swallowed. What do we do? Rowan glanced back at her, his expression calm but firm. We wait for now. No sudden movements. If it's nothing, we don't add fear where it doesn't belong. If it's something, he paused, choosing his words carefully. We stay aware. His steadiness grounded her more than he knew. They listened for another long moment, but the sound didn't return. Rowan finally stepped back from the door and sat beside her again, though tension visibly coiled in his shoulders. "I'm sorry," he said softly. "This isn't how your night should have gone." Elise shook her head, the smallest, warmest smile tugging at her lips. "You don't have to apologize for being scared or needing someone. Everyone does, even the strongest people." Rowan's expression softened, touched in a way he didn't hide this time. "It's strange," he murmured. "I didn't come here expecting comfort, but that's exactly what I found." Elise looked down, feeling warmth rise through her chest. "You should have knocked sooner," she whispered. The gentle honesty between them made the air feel warmer, softer, despite the storm. Rowan held the letter again, but this time his hands were steadier. "There's one more thing in here," he said. "I didn't read it aloud yet." He unfolded the paper once more, scanning until he reached the final paragraph. "She wrote," he read slowly, "If you hear anything unusual, don't ignore it. I wish I had listened sooner. Trust your instincts, and trust the person who makes you feel safe." Elise felt her breath catch, not from fear this time, but from the quiet weight of the words. "Did she mean me?" she whispered. Rowan lowered the letter, his gaze warm and unguarded. "I think so. She didn't know your name, but she knew I wasn't completely alone anymore." Elise felt something shift inside her, something she hadn't expected to feel towards someone she barely knew a season ago. But Rowan wasn't a stranger, not anymore, not after tonight. She opened her mouth to say something, anything, but the gentle buzz of her phone vibrated on the table, startling both of them. Rowan tensed. Elise picked it up slowly. "No caller ID." Rowan's eyes narrowed. "Don't answer yet." The phone buzzed again, longer this time. Elise hesitated, then pressed speakerphone. "Hello?" she said softly. A brief pause. Just breathing. Quiet, uncertain, barely audible. Then a woman's voice, fragile and trembling, whispered, "Elise, is Rowan with you?" Rowan's entire body went still. His hand gripped the edge of the couch. Elise's voice shook. "Who is this?" Another soft breath. Then, "It's Mia." Rowan's sister. Elise pressed a hand against her mouth, stunned. Rowan leaned forward, eyes wide, voice breaking. "Mia? Mia, where are you? Are you all right?" But the line crackled. "I can't talk long. Mia is—" A sharp sound cut through the speaker. Not a scream, not violence, more like the phone scraping against something. "Mia?" Rowan called, desperate. "Mia!" Her voice came back in a hurried whisper. "Don't open your door. Not for anyone. I'm close. I'm almost—" Static swallowed her words. The call dropped. Silence rushed in like cold air. Elise slowly lowered the phone, her hands trembling. Rowan stared at the blank screen, grief and fear twisting together. "Elise," he whispered, voice tight, raw. "She's here, somewhere near us, but someone else is too." Before Elise could respond, another sound drifted through the room. A slow, deliberate knock on her door. Not loud, not rushed, just 3 quiet taps. The same rhythm as before. The 3 soft taps echoed through Elise's apartment like the night itself was holding its breath. Not threatening, not hurried, just certain. Elise felt her heartbeat thrum in her ears. Rowan stood beside her now, not pacing, not panicking, just steady, focused, as though every piece of him locked into place the moment danger touched the edges of his world. "Elise," he murmured, "step back from the door." She did, her breath shaking but controlled. Rowan placed himself just ahead of her, his hand braced lightly on the wall near the doorframe, listening with total stillness. Another faint tap came, not on the door this time, but somewhere lower, near the floor, almost like someone leaning gently against the wood to test if anyone was near. Rowan closed his eyes for one quiet second, gathering himself. Then he spoke through the door, firm but calm. "Who's there?" No answer. Elise felt her throat tighten. She looked to Rowan, waiting, trusting. He tried again. "If this is Mia, say something, please." Silence. But then, a soft, shaky breath slipped through from the other side. A woman's breath, uneven, frightened. "Elise," the voice whispered at last, "please, unlock the door. It's me." Elise froze. Rowan's eyes widened, his breath catching with a painful hope. "Mia?" There was a pause, just a heartbeat, before the voice answered, quieter this time, trembling. "Yes." Elise felt a wave of relief flood through her, but Rowan didn't move. He wasn't convinced. "Not yet." "Mia," he said, steady but searching. "Tell me something only we would know. Anything." A long silence pressed between them. Then the voice said softly, "The night Mom got sick, you carried me from the porch because I was too scared to walk inside. You told me I didn't have to be brave alone." Rowan's breath broke. His hand trembled where it touched the wall. "That's her," he whispered. Elise's chest softened with quiet empathy. The exhaustion on Rowan's face, the longing, the fear, everything he'd been holding finally cracked open. He reached for the lock, but just before he turned it, Elise gently touched his arm. "Let me do it with you," she said softly. He nodded. Together, they unlocked the door. The hallway light spilled in faintly as the door creaked open, and there, leaning weakly against the wall, stood Mia Hale. She looked exhausted, rain-soaked, her eyes wide and haunted, yet unmistakably alive. Her clothes were damp, her hands shaking, and she held no bag, no umbrella, just a folded piece of paper clutched tightly to her chest. Rowan stepped toward her, voice cracking. "Mia." She collapsed into his arms with a soft, choked breath. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I didn't know where else to go." Rowan held her, tears he didn't bother hiding gathering in his eyes. Elise felt her own eyes sting at the sight. Two people who had carried years of fear, finding each other again in the quietest hour of night. After a moment, Rowan guided her inside, helping her sit on the couch. Elise brought a blanket, draping it gently around Mia's shoulders. Mia looked up at Elise with a weary but sincere gratitude. "You're Elise," she whispered. "He always talked about you, not with words, but with the way he said your name." Elise felt warmth bloom in her chest, as surprising as it was profound. Rowan knelt beside his sister. "Mia, what happened? Who was following you? Why now?" Mia swallowed hard, glancing toward the darkened window as if checking the shadows. "I'll explain everything," she said. "But first, I need you both to know something." She opened the folded paper in her hands. It wasn't a letter, it was a photograph, worn and slightly creased. She held it out to Rowan and Elise. It showed Mia standing with a small group of people outside an old community center, but one figure stood slightly apart, face blurred by motion, watching her from the edge of the frame. "I didn't know who they were," Mia whispered, "but they were always there, always close, and when I tried to run, I thought they'd never stop." Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to continue. "But tonight, I finally lost them. I came straight here because I knew Rowan would understand, and because I knew you," she looked at Elise, "wouldn't let him face it alone." Elise's heart tightened. Rowan took Mia's hand gently. "You're safe now," he said. Mia nodded, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Then she reached for Elise's hand too, holding both their hands together with surprising strength. "You saved him tonight," she said softly, "more than you realize." Elise felt Rowan look at her, and when she met his eyes, the connection between them, quiet, unspoken, warm, felt like it had been waiting there all along. For the first time since he'd knocked on her door, Rowan allowed himself to breathe fully, deeply. His sister was safe. The danger had passed, and the person he trusted most was still right beside him. Elise looked at him, her voice soft but steady. "You're not alone anymore, either of you." Rowan's expression softened with something like wonder, gentle, grateful, beautifully unguarded. In that small apartment, beneath the hush of fading rain, the night finally released the breath it had been holding, and the three of them stayed close, knowing the storm outside had finally broken and something new and quietly hopeful had just begun.